Kai Lenny grew up in Hawaii with the ocean as his main arena. He is known for riding some of the heaviest waves on the planet at Jaws on Maui. He also chases giant walls at Nazaré in Portugal. But his story is less about single monster rides and more about a whole system built around them. He treats big wave surfing, foiling, and channel racing as one connected program. Each discipline sharpens his timing, his reading of energy, and his comfort in chaos. In winters like the powerful El Niño years, that system matters even more. The swells are larger, the currents stronger, the windows tighter. On those days, he arrives with gear tuned, support teams rehearsed, and a clear plan for risk. On winter mornings at Jaws, his day starts long before the first takeoff. From the cliffs above Pe'ahi, he studies how each new swell line bends across the reef. Wind, backwash, and boil lines show where the bowl will hold its shape. They also warn him where sections will detonate early. He is not only looking for a single perfect wave, he is building a mental map of safe channels, impact zones, and escape routes that he will use all day. Once that map feels clear enough, he shifts from shoreline to ski. The tow team runs quiet laps outside, watching where the sets darken the water. They also track how much time they have between pulses. Every lap is a small rehearsal. They note where to accelerate and where to back off. They mark drop zones so the wave does most of the work. The margin for error is small, especially in seasons with powerful El Niño energy pushing more water over the reef. One bad call can mean a lost board, a failed pickup, or a two-wave hold down. When the pattern finally lines up, he commits to the bowl. He uses a high entry to stay ahead of the foam and keep options open. If the wave offers a barrel, he needs the speed in line already set before the section throws. From there, the ski becomes his lifeline, tracking the line of whitewater and preparing for a fast pickup. In these sessions, shoreline study, paddle instincts, and tow work all merge into one routine. That routine is built to survive huge days at Jaws. When sets close out the bowl, the rescue sled becomes as important as the board. Kai spends whole sessions rehearsing pickups in the worst parts of the impact zone. He and his partner agree on clear roles before each run, so there is no debate once whitewater hits. Approach lines stay wide at first, then tighten as trust grows. He braces low, times his breaths between hits, and never stops scanning for the next wave behind him. The goal is simple: ride out heavy wipeouts with enough control to go again. At Nazaré, the ocean feels less like a single wave and more like a moving mountain range. Kai uses the canyon's shifting peaks to choose where the ski should run. Sometimes that means starting wider than everyone else, away from backwash near the cliffs. From there, he and his partner adjust tow line length and tension for each swell period. Too tight and the board chatters. Too loose and he loses control entering the face. Every lap is a test, refining where and how to launch into those walls. In the Kaiwi Channel between Molokai and Oahu, the challenge is not a single drop. It is hours of non-stop decision-making. During his winning stand-up paddle years, Kai treated the crossing like a moving puzzle. He searched for bump lines that carried him forward with the least effort. Sometimes that meant leaving the obvious line and trusting a slower-looking track. Short bursts linked glides, then he settled back into steady cadence. He guarded his core and shoulders, saving real power for the final stretch near land. When he trades the paddle for a foil on downwind runs, the game changes, but the goal stays similar. Kai wants distance with the lowest possible cost to his body. On Maui to Molokai lines, he lifts early on small bumps to protect his legs. He counts short pump sets, then lets the foil glide so his quads can reset. Staying high above the chop keeps the wing clear and reduces surprise hits. By the time he reaches the channel's roughest water, he still has enough strength to react and stay flying. Far from shore on Oahu's outer reefs, the pace slows but the risk stays high. Here, Kai is often paddling into waves that feel more like moving cliffs than standard sets. He studies deep shadow lines on the water to understand where hidden ledges bend the swell. If the shoulder holds clean and the bowl stays open, he commits. If not, he waits, saving energy for a better shot instead of forcing something half-formed. Those same habits follow him back to Nazaré. Toe laps there are faster, but the thinking is familiar. He watches how each new set stacks over the canyon and how wind rakes the face. Stance width, entry angle, and speed at the bottom all change with those details. A slightly wider stance can calm the board when the face is ribbed. A lower entry can help it bite into the wall instead of skipping across it. Lap after lap, he and his partner adjust these small variables. They are trying to find a repeatable pattern that works when the biggest sets of the day finally appear. Heavy water races demand a different kind of courage. In San Francisco during Red Bull Heavy Water, the course starts with brutal beach break punishment. Only after that can athletes even think about racing lines. Kai has to time his entries between collapsing walls of whitewater. He must sprint through rips and still save energy for long upwind legs outside. He treats the race like a series of gates. Clear one gate, then focus on the next, without letting a bad section bleed into the rest of the effort. That mindset carries straight back into Jaws, especially on the West Bowl. The West Bowl is where the wave thickens and bends over shallow reef. There, a fall is more than a lost ride. It can mean violent hold-downs and broken equipment. Kai responds by tightening every choice that leads into the drop. He lines up a little higher to stay away from the worst part of the lip. He uses a compact stance and quick pump out of the trough to carry speed through the compression zone. If the section starts to close, he already knows where he can escape to the shoulder. There he can shut the ride down before the lip lands on him. In both the race course and the West Bowl, success is not about heroics on one section. It is about stacking small, smart decisions so he can push hard. He still needs enough left if something goes wrong. As the stakes rise, communication becomes its own piece of safety gear. At Nazaré, Kai and his tow partners rely on short radio calls to manage moving peaks and shifting fog. They use simple, repeatable words for each part of the lineup. That way, no one has to guess what the other means. Clear language cuts reaction time when a set stands up earlier than expected or a rider disappears in spray. Before bigger days, he also runs through vest checks with the crew. They test pull cords, count inflation stages, and talk through what each rider will do after a bad wipeout. Knowing the vest will fire removes one layer of worry when he commits on the rope. From there, he can focus on tow strategy itself. He decides which direction to track, how deep to draw, and where bailout lines sit. Radio habits, vest drills, and deliberate tow plans all stack into one shared system for surviving giant sessions. On long foil crossings between islands, the threat is not a single crash. It is slow, creeping fatigue. Kai manages lactic build by breaking the effort into small, countable pieces. He sets pump numbers for each burst and forces a glide once he hits that limit. The structure keeps him from burning out early in the channel. It also keeps his mind steady when the crossing feels endless. That calm lets him react cleanly when wind or swell suddenly shifts. Giant wave days often come with long periods of nothing. At Nazaré, those lulls can stretch so far that focus starts to fade. Kai protects his attention by choosing how many laps he will run instead of chasing every bump of motion. He holds back when wind and period do not line up. He saves his best effort for the few sets that truly matter. When he finally calls for the rope, he is fully present, not mentally drained from constant false starts. The same patience shows at Pe'ahi when second reef pulses appear. Those outside waves offer early speed, but come with serious risk if they close on the inside. Kai uses them to chip into the bowl with extra momentum, but only when his read is clean. He turns early to stay clear of the foam ball. Then he adjusts his line as the wave steps down onto the inside reef. The reward is a faster, more controlled entry and a better chance at threading the main bowl. Hold downs in heavy surf are not left to chance. Before major swells, Kai runs breath training and vest drills in controlled settings. He practices exhaling on impact, waiting a beat, then pulling the cord at the right moment. He also trains himself to relax during the darkest seconds underwater. He trusts the vest and the rescue plan instead of fighting the ocean. Those reps mean that when a real wipeout comes at Jaws or Nazare, his body already knows what to do. On wingfoil downwinders, the stakes are lower, but the skills connect. He uses D-power to quiet the wing during long glides. That saves his arms and lets the foil carry most of the load. Short, clean pump sets lift him onto new bumps. Then he locks into glide again. He links swells on diagonal lines, looking for steady wind lanes instead of chasing every gust. The ride becomes another lesson in reading energy, conserving strength, and staying calm when gusts shift. After near misses at Nazaré, he also uses the idea of a reset wave. Instead of jumping straight back into the heaviest part of the peak, he sometimes chooses a safer shoulder line. He uses that ride to reset before pushing deeper again. That wave is there to rebuild timing, not to impress anyone on the cliff. Once his rhythm returns, he steps back toward a truer, more critical line with a clearer head. Back home on Maui, the biggest progress often happens far from huge contest swells. Kai spends long stretches rotating between crafts, shortboards, guns, foils, SUPS, even rescue sled driving. Each one stresses a different muscle group and a different speed of decision-making. When he feels focus dropping, he cuts the session and saves sharpness for another day. The goal is not endless grind. It is a durable base of skills that can handle the shock of the next giant swell cycle. Across Jaws, Nazare, and long channel crossings, one pattern keeps showing up. Kai reads the ocean fast, commits to lines that match the energy, and manages the cost of every decision. He trains resets as carefully as hero rides, so he can always come back for another attempt. That is the rhythm behind each clip in every storm season to come.